What is up, Mathletes? Welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. Math. And today we're going to be talking about simplifying and evaluating expressions. Don't go nowhere. All right, Mathletes. So let's go ahead and jump into this topic so that you can see this is how we do it. All right. So let's talk about simplifying and evaluating expressions. Let's not confuse the two, right? Two totally different things. And this is what I hear all the time from my students. And this is kind of my experience too. You ever get a test back or a quiz and during the quiz you were confused, you didn't know what the heck they were asking, and then you got it back, you got the problems wrong, and then you saw how the answer was done, and you're like, wait a minute, I knew how to do all that, but you just didn't know what they were asking you. That's a huge problem in math. So let's take care of that today. So what the heck is simplifying and evaluating expressions? It's really easy, all right? And I'll give you quite a few examples so that you leave here, boom, A-okay. So when we think about simplifying expressions, you want to make sure to watch my video linked below where I talk about combining like terms, right? You want to combine like terms, you want to get rid of those parentheses if you see them. All we're doing is regrouping those terms, right? To making that long expression a little bit more condensed, right? That's what we're doing when we're simplifying expressions. When you're evaluating expressions, that's when they give us a bunch of variables and then they'll tell you the value of each variable. So you're going to be plugging numbers in. Most of the time we're plugging in numbers for this class. Later on, we're going to expand and you're going to plug in expressions. But right now, think about it this way. We're going to be plugging in numbers, right? So what do you mean, Dr. Math? Well, let's take a look. So let's start off with this first example where it asks us to simplify the following expression, all right? And this again goes with the video that we talked about earlier about combining like terms, right? One thing where I tell people to do early in the game is just to get comfortable with your mathematical properties. What can you and can't you do in math? Well, one thing we could do is we could rewrite this so that all your x values, everything that has an x, is kind of grouped next to each other. So I'm going to use a commutative property of addition and I'm going to rewrite this so that my x's are next to each other. Again, if you watch that video, in real life, this isn't a good example, right? You never want your x's next to each other. It might look a little bit like this. I wanna be loved by you. But in math, it's perfect, right? So what we're going to do is we combine our like terms, right? Both of these have an x value. So 2x plus 3x, that gives us 5x. And that minus 5, there's nothing you could do with that. So we're going to drop it like it's hot. Boom. And when we're simplifying, that's as much as you could do. You can't go any further, right? Because here, these are not like terms. So please don't try to go any further. And that's a problem a lot of students make. They go a little bit too far, right? So be careful, make sure you understand what you can and cannot do, right? The next thing that we're faced with is sometimes we have parentheses here. You want to get rid of those parentheses. And that's just indicating that we need to distribute, right? We need to multiply. So we're always going to multiply by that number that's in front, that's kind of touching those parentheses. Right, so we're going to distribute that -2. Make sure you're very careful with these signs because that's problematic, right? So this 2x, nothing happened to that 2x yet, so we drop it down. And just like we said, we're going to distribute, we're going to multiply by -2, everything that's in parentheses. So -2 times x gives us -2x, and -2 times +5 gives us -10. Well, what do you know? In this example, these two x's, they're like terms, and it's telling us to subtract them. So these are actually going to cancel each other out, right? These cancel each other out, and we're left with that -10, right? Sometimes your answer might be a number, sometimes it might be an expression, right? So be ready on the lookout for everything. In this case, things canceled out. Do they always cancel out? Absolutely not. But that's what happened here. So in this example right here, we see again parentheses, but then we see fractions, and this is where people hit the panic button. And if you're thinking about hitting that panic button, before you do that, you gotta smash that like button and subscribe to our videos because we're doing some good work for you. All right, so don't forget to tell a friend or 10,000 that Dr. Math got your back. All right, so when you see fractions here, one tip that I give people, one of my pro tips is when we're multiplying by fractions, why not make those whole numbers, turn them into fractions too? Because then when you're thinking about this, a little rule I like to tell people is you're gonna multiply the top with the top, right? And then multiply the bottom with the bottom. So the numerators with the numerators, denominators with the denominators. So I'll draw a little map because we all learn differently. So that one's gonna get multiplied times everything that's upstairs. And then that 2 is gonna get multiplied times everything downstairs. Again, this is just one way of doing it. Whatever you feel most comfortable with, then you do it that way. All right, so going ahead and multiply, 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 5 is 5. So we're left with 3, and then we got that x plus 5. Now let's do the bottom, and those denominators, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2. So we're left with 2 over 2. And now notice, we left this 1/2 x hanging, so we're gonna drop it. Boom, you know what we're gonna say, drop it like it's hot, bam. Don't forget, now we're gonna combine our like terms. So let me highlight our like terms here. So we have 3/2 x and 1/2 x. The rules for fractions never change. You wanna make sure they have the same denominator. And they do, boom, excellent. So 3 plus 1 gives me 4. If you have trouble seeing that, again, my suggestion to you, right, even if you live on the East Coast, is that we're gonna rewrite this so that all your x values are next to each other. And some people are wondering, hey, Dr. Math, why are you putting the x's off to the side? I just wanna show you it doesn't matter if they're up here or off to the side, it means the same thing. So get comfortable with notation because you do not wanna confuse yourself and end up like this guy. All right. So 3/2 plus 1/2, so they have the same denominator, so 3 plus 1, that's gonna leave us with 4. So we're left with 4 over 2x plus 5/2, right? And 4 over 2, that's just 2. So we're left with 2x plus 5/2. And we know that these are not like terms, so that's where you stop. Bam. All right, any questions? Nothing, you sure? All right. So the reason I put this one is because this minus sign gets so many people fall victim to this right here. So what I want you to do is whenever you see a minus sign in the parentheses, do yourself a favor and put a little 1 there. If you don't need it, don't write it, but a lot of people need that there. All right, it just helps them out. So what we're gonna do is we need to distribute first. Never forget your order of operations, right? If you do, just get a nice little tattoo with all your order of operations. That'll fix that problem. So we're not gonna subtract, right? Don't listen to your friend. Don't subtract those. We gotta distribute first, right? Stick with us on Dr. Math Studios because we'll treat you right. So we're gonna distribute, we're gonna multiply everything by -1. So we're left with -3 plus 1x. Do I need that 1x? No. Can you write it? Yes. Right? So if you want to write that 1 there, if it makes you feel good at night, then write that 1 there. If not, don't worry about it. So we're left with 2 minus 3. Like terms right there. So you're left with -1 plus x. Again, these are not like terms, so you are finished. All right. And again, everything that we're doing is going to require that your skills of adding and subtracting integers are solid. Your skills of multiplying fractions and adding fractions are solid. So again, we have resources here at Dr. Math Studios to make sure you're ready to level up. All right. So now let's talk about evaluating algebraic expressions, right? In English, all that's telling us is they're gonna give us something to plug into our expression. And typically we're gonna be given numbers, right? We're gonna have some number we're gonna plug in for the variable, right? What are you talking about, Dr. Math? Let's take a look. All right, so for this first example, they give us the expression 2x minus 3. And they're telling us that x equals 2, right? So all we're gonna do is wherever you see an x, not your x, right? Don't look over there, focus here, right? Wherever you see the x, you're gonna replace it with a 2. That's all it means. All right, so let's do this. So we're gonna have 2, and what I say is put a big old parentheses so you get into these good habits, right? Because later on, you're not just gonna have numbers you're plugging in. You're gonna have expressions, and things are gonna get a little bit more complicated. But if you have these good habits, you're gonna go far. All right, well, what are we plugging in those parentheses? Well, we just said this 2, boom, is going inside those parentheses. So we plug in 2 right there, and now we use our order of operations. So once again, make sure that you're solid in everything that you need to be successful in this section. All right, so order of operations tells us to multiply first. So we multiply 2 times 2, which is 4. And then we're gonna drop down that 3, and 4 minus 3 leaves us with 1. And that's how easy it is, folks. All right, let's do some more. All right, so now we have 5x minus 7, but this time they're telling us x equals 1. So go ahead, take a second, and go ahead and tell us down below what your answer is, and we'll give it to you in a few seconds here. All right, you should have plugged in 1. 5 times 1 gives us 5. 5 minus 7, you should have been left with negative 2 for that answer. So go ahead and celebrate. We'll wait for you here. Do your little celebration, and then we'll get back to the next question. All right, so for this next one, we have 3x squared minus 2y. So this time, wherever you see an x, right, you're gonna plug in negative 1. Wherever you see a y, you're gonna plug in 1, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And again, I wanna be good users of these parentheses. So let's set up the scene here. And the first question that people are asking is, where can I get one of those Dr. Math sweatshirts or those shirts, right? Don't worry, they're coming out. We'll let you guys know, all right? So our x value is negative 1, bam, negative 1 goes here. Our y value is positive 1, the 1 goes here, all right? So now let's evaluate this, follow the order of operations, right? So negative 1 squared, we do our exponents first in this case. So we have 3 times 1, because negative 1 squared, negative 1 times negative 1 gives us that 1, minus 2. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and multiply. 3 times 1 gives us 3, minus 2, and we're left with 1. And if you forget that, just think of me, number 1, that easy. All right, folks. So what we're gonna do here is wherever you see x, go ahead and plug in a negative 1, and wherever you see a y, you're plugging in negative 2. So let's go ahead and evaluate this. So you're left with 3, boom, parentheses squared, right? Plus 2 times the quantity, parentheses plus 3, boom. Well, now we just go in there, and wherever we saw x, we know we're plugging in negative 1. And wherever you saw the y, you're plugging in negative 2. And now we just follow our order of operations. So let's go ahead and do our parentheses first. So everything else, we're gonna drop it down. And I know you could go ahead and do this much faster, but I wanna make sure that if you have any questions, do things one at a time, just so when you go back to check your work, you could see exactly, everything flows nicely. You could check your work, boom, very nicely there. So negative 2 plus 3, that was a horrible okay sign. There you go. I don't know, I need to practice. Negative 2 plus 3 leaves us with 1. All right, now we got rid of those parentheses, so now let's do our exponents. So negative 2 squared, whoa. Negative 1 squared. So we're left with 3 times 1 plus 2 times 1. All right, next up to bat, multiplication. So let's go ahead and multiply, and we're left with 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2, and we're left with 5. And there you have it, folks. That's how you evaluate expressions like a pro. So this is going to be great for helping you understand, starting off right. And now when we work on harder examples, you're going to have your foundation down. All right, folks. So hopefully you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and really help us out. Share with your friends, your neighbors, the people you don't like, right? Dr. Math is here for all of you. We'll see you next time. Peace.